It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, how are you doing?
I'm distracted. I'm undeniably distracted. Just constantly like
Showed all
every
those
time
notifications on.
and like I didn't even get to appreciate the music today because I was looking at my phone, trying to make sure I wasn't missing anything right before we started.
Yeah. But most recent one to come in here, Chooch Core for, huh? Signing with the Jets. It's the most recent one that I see here. But anyways, as we sit here, still awaiting quarterback news. I guess we're waiting around, right? We're just gonna sit here, or we're gonna wait around. One of the questions actually from the YouTube community is like, how long will the Steelers wait around for this to happen? Like, if they don't, is there any timeline in your mind that they have to have like a deadline? Like, we need an answer here so we can move forward, or no? Like, they're willing to just wait this thing out?
No, I don't. There's no reason to have a deadline. I mean, Rusell Wilson is trying to induce a deadline by saying that he's going to meet with the Browns tomorrow, and the Giants on Friday. Good for him. Maybe he will sign with one of them, but I don't think that should look. We are sure the Steelers are going to have a quarterback, and we are reasonably sure that quarterback is not going to be good. And it really, like, if Aaron Rodgers wants $90 million, I would rather have Carson Wentz or Gardner. I'd much rather have Gardner Minshew. Like, it doesn't. Like, if that's what we're talking about here, if those are the stakes, and it seems like Russ is just totally off the table. Like that, the report from the New York Post, they haven't talked to him in a week. They have no interest in re-signing Rusell Wilson. Their actions are making that abundantly clear. So if you have one guy you're talking to, there's no reason to rush. Wait him out. Aaron Rodgers camp obviously putting out there today that, the Vikings are still a viable option for him. Sure they are. Sure he wants to go play where they drafted a guy with the 12th pick in the draft last year? I'm sure that's really where Aaron Rodgers wants to go. A place that's just itching to replace him with a former first-round draft pick. Come on. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, it's interesting because
option is the Steelers. The Steelers' best option is him. If they don't figure it out, they don't figure it out. But, like, there's no reason to rush.
I'm not saying that Diana Rossini putting out the Vikings thing, I'm not saying that she's got bad information or whatever, but it's interesting because like Ian Rappaport was on NFL Network shortly after, and once again, it just continues to say Steelers or Giants, or Vikings not mentioned within there. So it's just interesting again to like kind of see the reporting on that. If you're Aaron, like the Vikings are attractive to a degree because of like the pieces that are there, but would you have some concern about them?
If you badly want to follow Brett Favre's career path.
Too.
You have that available to you as well there. The Vikings are a team that is closer to contention than the Steelers are, but he's probably not going to be the starting quarterback for it. Like that's the part of it. I'm skeptical of JJ McCarthy. I think it was a bad draft pick. I would not have put him in a position to be the sort of guaranteed starting quarterback, nor do I think the Vikings should. But like they used a first-round pick on him. They let Sam Darnold walk. They're gonna play JJ at some point. Like they're making that clear. So why would Rodgers want to be there? I
understand.
Better off not taking any deal, going home, not having to go to training camp, and waiting for the first guy to blow his ACL and be like, "I'll sign there." He would be way better served doing that.
He had to have had to have some type of like procedure done in like November, kind of like a follow-up thing. And so they were saying like maybe there's some concern about his availability early on, but like even so, say like at some point they're going to turn the keys over to him like this year. I'm not even saying like down the road at some point because he's a first-round pick on him. He's gonna play this year. Like physically, once he's there, he's gonna be under center. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still think that this is what ultimately is gonna happen is Aaron Rodgers signs with the Steelers. That's not necessarily something that I've for sure heard. That's my prediction that I'll put out here. But I have a question for you. Probably should have asked beforehand because I don't like to speculate on here, but I wanted to discuss something. so that was interesting about in terms of the Steelers not having communication with Russ like since free agency or whatever like that. Do you know or have you heard if there was ever an offer put on the table to him though?
If there was an offer, he would have signed it.
Okay. All right. So I guess I shouldn't. I don't want to bring up what I would have heard then. But anyway, okay. So
Go ahead, bring up what
that
you
is
heard.
all right. I heard that Russ felt slighted by the offer that was put on the table by the Steelers.
Well, okay, let me rephrase this. Sometimes teams make offers so that they can say they made an offer that is so low that they know the other guy's never going to agree to it. That could be what happened here.
Yeah, so that was the first part of it, and that he was so slighted by that offer. If another team, such as the Giants, or I mean, I don't know about a team that he could potentially start for, would put an offer on the table, he would sign that, even if the money was the exact same, because of the way that he felt towards the organization.
I mean, if it's $5 million a year, he's not going to sign that. But like anything that's even approaching starting quarterback money, I think he would.
Okay,
you know, like and. Not a week ago he wouldn't have, because then he wouldn't. That's the other part of the timing of this is the difference is now versus then, right? Where it's like now Rusell Wilson is in serious jeopardy of not having a spot as a starting quarterback. And especially if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Giants, feels like Pittsburgh is the last shot of that. Although the Browns, maybe.
Yeah. The Browns seeming to I jokingly texted my friend that's a Browns fan after the Pickett thing.
Like,
yeah,
how's that work?
I don't know. Well, with what you said though, this could be Russ trying to force the Steelers. Like, hey, I'm going to visit.
This is 100% Russ being like, make up your damn mind. Like that's exactly what this is. Or I'm going to the Giants on Friday. That's basically Rusell Wilson is giving the Steelers a Friday deadline of, if you don't come up with something by then, I'm going to go sign with the Giants when I visit them.
And you were of the mind, and I'm also with you. You know, I'm willing to, if I get old takes exposed, whatever. But it's kind of sounded like within that, you're of the same mind that the Steelers would be perfectly fine letting that happen. And then if they don't land Aaron Rodgers, if say Russ doesn't go to the Giants, if he goes somewhere else, Aaron Rodgers goes to the Giants and retires, the Steelers would pivot entirely and not be upset about losing out on Rusell Wilson either.
I think the ship has sailed between Rusell Wilson and the Steelers. I don't think there is almost any chance that he will be back. Even if they lose out on Aaron Rodgers to the Giants, I think they will go a different direction.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the Aaron Rodgers stuff. We obviously talked about the Vikings side of that. I'm like trying to wrap my mind around the Giants thing, even, right? Like they're picking third in the draft. A lot of people have said that they're the most likely team to jump up to number one if the Titans were to move out of number one. So that could be a quarterback spot there, certainly as well. From Aaron's perspective, you look around, obviously they got Malik Neighbors there. There's some interesting pieces, right? Like Theo Johnson, we both liked as a tight end. Tyrone Tracy had a nice year as a 4th round rookie last year, but like, would you rather throw to DK Metcalf and George Pickens or Malik Neighbors and us? You know, is basically the question there.
Darius Slay back in New York. I think they have better wide receivers. That may be a hot take. I think I'd rather have Darius Slayton and Malik Neighbors than DK Metcalf and George Pickens. Pat's better than Theo, but not by a lot. I don't know. And Tyrone Tracy's a really good receiving running back. I don't know. I think they have better receivers. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be awful. Like, does he want to be in New York? Like, okay, that's a part of it that I don't know. Like, did he like being in New York? Does he want to stay in New York? I don't have any idea. Some people love New York. Some people hate it. I don't know what Aaron's thoughts are on it. So, like, that's a possible pull there. Does he like the offense better? I mean, I don't know. But like they're pretty different offenses. Okay. I think Giants have better receivers, but I think mostly the Giants are being used as leverage by Aaron Rodgers. It's just like Rusell Wilson is being used as leverage by the Pittsburgh Steelers, that he probably recognizes that the Steelers are the best possible fit for him. The team that would actually let him start, that has any chance of going to the postseason with him as the starting quarterback. And he's just trying to get his money.
Yeah. I'm going through this wide receiver thing now. Neighbors is to me the best out of the group. And then you got Pickens and DK ahead of, in my opinion, Slayton. But they got Wan'Dale Robinson there, Calvin Austin here.
Jalen Hyatt? It's like a young player I really liked. Like,
Well, he's just a cardio king right now for them. I don't know if he's ever going to come into something else, but like, yeah, okay. The thing is, I think they have guys that right now, like, if the Steelers don't add somebody else, that's kind of what I'm waiting for. If Aaron Rodgers does come here, I'm waiting to see who that receiver that would be, who is like the quick game winner that would be added to the room. I think that's what, yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. Is I think Cooper Kupp becomes much more attractive to them, and now you're talking about him as a third in the passing game, maybe even fourth in the passing game at times.
Cooper Kupp would tip the scales back to the Steelers for me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it would be a much better fit.
Because he's way better than Wan'Dale Robinson. Way better. Like, that's a dramatic upgrade there. And then I think that pushes Calvin to going up against Jalen Hyatt, which I think I would give an edge to Calvin then. But Calvin's not as good as Robinson.
Right. I mean, like in terms of what they've done in the Wan'Dale Robinson had the weirdest year. Was it just last year? He had like 100 catches, but only like 700, like the wildest stat line that you could possibly have.
Yeah, I'm in a PPR league where he was like strangely fantasy valuable. He had 140 targets last year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like 140 targets for Wan'Dale Robinson is just berserk.
Yeah, absolutely.
His yards per target is 5, which might be the lowest in the NFL.
I see a lot of people, and people kind of thought that this timeline or whatever was going to come to an end today. A lot of people, for some reason, Pat McAfee reposted his own post from years ago with Aaron talking about Pittsburgh. So then everybody thought like Aaron was going on the show. That was them basically announcing that he was coming to Pittsburgh. And there's like been little hints here and there that Tone Diggs, who's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan and is on Pat's show, has kind of dropped here and there. So I think a lot of people kind of thought that was coming today. And then when it seemingly wasn't, people all of a sudden really starting to panic yet again on this. Like, I know that you are not within the fan base, but as somebody that can kind of like take the outside view on that, what should the level of concern be here in terms of, I know that you said the Steelers aren't operating on a timeline, they're willing to let this thing play out, but like, is that the right approach in your mind?
Yeah, because they're not winning a Super Bowl this year with any of these guys. The goal is to quarterback proof the team. You can't quarterback proof the team overpaying a quarterback for this year and next year. It's not like this is a 1-year deal. Like, they're talking about a 2-year deal with all these guys. I would much rather have Gardner Minshew than overpay for Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, I don't think it's a problem.
What do you think that number is though? That would be like an overpay.
Oh, I wouldn't give him more than $25 million a year. I think he's probably going to end up signing for more than that. But that's where I'd be.
Yeah, I heard, and again, this is not like me being able to confirm anything here, but like I heard that like 30 was what was being pushed for. And if you look at last year, 19th in EPA, like I guess like 30, top 20.
He only made 37 on the deal. The Jets couldn't get away from fast enough. Like how are we talking about more than 30? Like
mm-hmm.
And Florio, who I don't know how much he owes Aaron's agent, but like it's a lot. Is saying like, well, Kirk Cousins makes 45. Guys, if Kirk Cousins' salary wasn't guaranteed, the Atlanta Falcons would have cut him on October 30th. Like, what are we talking about here? They're dragging the ball and chain of Kirk Cousins around this season because they're stuck, not because anybody thinks he's worth that. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, they're about to pay his $10 million on Sunday or whatever. And then do you think at that point, that just means he's not to pivot the conversation to Kirk Cousins, but he's staying on that roster as a very expensive backup? Or do you think that that's them trying to
they would trade him for him? They would trade him at any point they could. I just no one's going to take the contract and they can't get out from under
it. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. But okay, back to like what we were talking about there within Aaron and stuff like that. So if you feel like that is the right approach though, should everything else be revolving around that or no? Like, should they pivot to continuing to operate as is, just assuming that like whether it is Aaron or whatever the quarterback is, that's going to get done, but we need to like fill in these other gaps, check these other boxes?
Yeah, I don't think they're waiting on quarterback to do anything. Nor do I think they should.
Because I've seen people throw that opinion out. Okay, so I guess that should have been where I started. Is you're not of the mindset that everything's sitting around waiting on quarterback?
No, not all. I mean, they traded for DK Metcalf. They signed Darius Slay. They signed Kenny Gainwell. They signed they made what 4 or 5 moves, 6 moves. Like what? Of course, nothing's waiting on quarterback.
Well, I should say because, and again, this is like, which would just look at some of the reporting out there. Jerry Dulac put out there that he's not expecting like another move besides quarterback once that one happens. And then I think people are looking around like, okay, well, they haven't, checked a lot of the boxes that they need to before the draft. So I guess like, I don't know. I think that's why a lot of people were asking, is everything being held up by the quarterback position?
Got a number one wide receiver, another one corner. They got another.
This was after that, by the way. I should say that.
Yeah. I don't know what, I mean, they'll sign a D tackle. I feel pretty good about that. Like I expect them to sign a D tackle. They won't go into the draft without signing one. But other than that, I'm not expecting them. I mean, look, $10 million on Slay, $5 million on Warren, $5 million on Harrison. You're going to spend at least on a 2-year deal, at least $20 million on a quarterback. We don't have the details for DK, but it'll be probably approaching 20. Like, they only had $60 million in cap space. You don't have to be that good at math to figure out that they can make more, but starting today, they have to make the more before they can spend it, right? Before today, they could spend whatever they wanted and figure it out. But as of 4 p.m. today, they have to be salary cap compliant. Unless they start restructuring some contracts. Like, there ain't a whole lot more room there. Like, there's some, but it's not like there's 30 million in Omar's couch cushions right now. Like, there's enough to make like a quarterback, and maybe depending on how much they spend on quarterback, one more decent size sign.
Not sure what the number is going to be on this, but Brandin Echols also brought into the organization. Not the former Jet to Steeler that we were kind of expecting potentially to happen today, but in my opinion, a quality cornerback that can play inside and outside. What's your take on this signing and just like his role within the team where we could see him line up?
I would expect Brandin Echols to be a slot corner. He played some outside with the Jets early in his career. It went quite poorly. Got moved to the slot. Then last year had to play outside because they had a bunch of injuries. Didn't go great either. They liked him as a backup to who's their nickel, Carter. In that role, heard that they wanted to re-sign him, but he was looking for a fresh start. That's always a good thing to hear about a guy that the team just signed. And so I think you're looking at, I don't know if they're going to give him the slot corner job, but I think you're looking at a guy who will play some slot and probably some special teams. Remember last year, they had to bring James Pierre back because they couldn't find a punt gunner. I could see him filling that role, taking James Pierre's spot, except instead of a backup outside corner, he would also be a backup inside corner.
Yeah, certainly has the versatility. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he's the one that George dunked on Rusell Wilson's first touchdown pass as a Pittsburgh.
Oh, yes. Yes, there's a great picture of it at SteelersNow.com. I'll have to actually, maybe I'll just tweet that picture because I did tweet like maybe it's going to be a bit because when they signed Darius Slay, I tweeted the Darnell Washington blocking him into the stands. So maybe I'll tweet George Mossing Brandin Echols too.
There we go. You mentioned Darius Slay within there as well. I had asked you like if you felt that this was going to happen.
Picture. It's the picture we used for the top of the story. Oh, even better.
Oh, I have to look. But anyway, Darius Slay becomes official today, signing with the Steelers after being released 1 year, $10 million, fully guaranteed. You mentioned the reporting on it, and I know that we were getting some questions about it. I was seeing people put out there on Twitter like Howie Roseman's still trying to bring him back. Obviously, they still love Philly, him and his wife and family. So it was going to be I thought it was interesting. I thought we were going to be waiting this out to see if he even for sure was joining, but he does officially sign his 1 year contract today. Just talked about Brandin Echols in his role kind of within that defensive backfield. Darius Slay, we obviously know what role he's going to play opposite of Joey Porter. I get excited thinking about what this could be, not only because I think he's still a really good player, but also in terms of I know that we've been seeking this in the past, like that mentorship. Like this is a guy that's been there, done that, and done it at such a high level, like almost like another Patrick Peterson, but this guy can also still play.
Yeah, and I think adds a different stylistic piece to the puzzle. Different than Dante Jackson, not a guy who's going to be like scheme limited in the way Jackson was, also not as fast as Jackson was. So I think it will put a little bit more pressure on Porter in terms of the fast guys. But I just think, man, if you're looking for a corner that if you're like a young player and you're like, oh, who should I model my game after? Like Darius Slay is the answer. Like this guy is not that fast right now. Like He's not, but he's playing at a really high level anyway. And I think, so from a technical standpoint, I think he has a lot to give. I think he frees Joey Porter up to put him in better matchups. I think they can avoid some of the Porter on a little guy that has not gone so well for them over the years. And so I think it's a really good piece. I think he'll be a starting corner for him all year. Probably, he's 34. His health will be a concern, but that's the only thing I got. He's a really good player.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I guess at his age, you feel like it could happen at any moment where the play falls off. But, you go back and watch him last year, was still one of the better players at his position in the
on
league,
a really good defense.
Yeah.
Like they leaned on him for tough assignments, not Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell. That should tell you a lot about how good he was.
Yeah. I mean, they wanted to bring him back. Obviously, they have those young guys that they kind of got to turn the keys over to, and they didn't. They kind of trying to figure out their own financial situation and got to move on from good players when that happens. But definitely happy to have him in Pittsburgh. Mentioned some questions that we're gonna get to. We actually got asked about defensive tackle. 412 Drizzy. I'm curious as to why we didn't pay one of the available defensive tackles. Going to have to double dip in the draft and pray the rookies develop. If so.
I mean, I think there's still lots of good defensive tackles on the market. I don't think, to me, I don't think they were looking for, and then look, trade is still a possibility here, but I would have considered like a starting D tackle in free agency to be quite a luxury. Like, I did not think that was likely to happen. I thought more likely you would get a depth piece, someone who gives yourself a little bit of insurance against your first round draft pick. And so I'm not shocked that they haven't signed one. A little bit, like the prices have been high. There's some deals I would have done. Jonathan Allen, I think they were legitimately interested in. So like, I'm not shocked that they haven't. But yeah, I was still expecting. Well, I'll say this: I'm a little surprised they haven't made a move yet. But the caliber of player I was expecting them to make a move with is still available,
there.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I was not thinking they were going to sign Milton Williams, like at all under any circumstances. Like I figured they were going to sign a guy like Dalvin Tomlinson, who's still out there, right? I'm not shocked by the list of who's out there at D tackle and the idea of one of them fitting into the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, I want them to sign somebody, fully acknowledging that I also hope that they draft somebody early.
Oh, they're going to draft
really class.
2, no matter what.
Yeah.
The class is too good to not draft 2. And what they've done in free agency now, first round will almost certainly be defensive tackle. Like, it's hard to envision it being anyone else at this point.
And my thought is, even with the caliber of class it is being very good, I just look at the development path that like you just brought up Milton Williams, right? Look at how good that he has become. That was not the case early in his career. Who knows what players they draft in this draft class are going to look like early. I think you need somebody as kind of like a fallback option, early contributor that they're going to get from this free agency.
Yeah, and I think they need a nose tackle. They don't have, they don't have Adams under contract. I think they ideally should be looking to move Keanu Benton. Now, the thing about that is Grant could be your nose tackle. There could be one in the draft as well. Like this could honestly be a position where they wait until the summer. A lot of these guys, these defensive linemen, do not sign until later. It's just like a very like mercenary position where there's these guys that DB was talking about it last week. They just come around. Calais Campbell. Like Calais Campbell's fine. I'm not like jumping for joy at signing him. He's like 38, but like whatever. Like he was pretty good last year still. And like that's fine. Like if you don't get one in the draft, he'll be there in June. Like so like I don't necessarily think there's a rush on this and slot corner. Both of those positions, I think there's still a lot of guys out there that they can continue to add to if they don't find in the draft later on, whether that's now or later, whatever. Like I'm not concerned about either of those spots.
The go-to mercenary signed a 3-year contract. Poona Ford we brought up, and he got a nice payday. I guess for all those years being a mercenary, he got rewarded.
Yeah, he did. Hey, Larry got rewarded too. He signed a 1-year deal with the Bills for $8.3 million after the Steelers were only going to pay him $7 million before they cut him. So,
Are you surprised by that?
Greatly. Yeah.
Me too. I was kind of surprised.
And they have their starters. So they signed him that to be a backup. Like that's $8.3 million. 1 year, $8.3 million to be a backup. That's strange.
Mm-hmm. Like I'd be surprised by the money, but like a guy gets what you think is overpaid, whatever. But like more so the team for me, like with being Buffalo was what surprised me, giving him that. So, but anyway, something else. We got to circle back to the QB conversation because there's another position kind of thrown in here. Jason says, Smitty Allen, do you realistically think that the Steelers will go after Kupp now that he's been released? And how long do you think that they can wait on an answer for Rodgers? Would Rodgers impact their desire to go after a player like Cooper Kupp? And what's your thoughts on Chef's reporting Russ's meeting in Cleveland? So we kind of covered most of that with it being obviously Russ visiting Cleveland, probably trying to force the Steelers' hand there. Steelers, they're going to wait out on Rodgers. The Cooper Kupp thing, though, we kind of touched on that, but that very much seems like, I'm not sure your thought about the fit if it is a different quarterback, but it's like for me, certainly if it is Aaron, Cooper Kupp makes sense. Depending on who the other quarterback is, maybe I could give or take the addition of Cooper Kupp.
I don't see there's any downside to signing a guy like Cooper Kupp. If you're worried at all about how George Pickens is going to react to the DK Metcalf trade, you need some insurance for it.
Yeah.
He's a different kind of receiver than what they have on the roster. They don't have anybody like him. I think it's a good personality fit. I think the idea of having an established veteran in that room is a good idea, even if you're going to keep it together. And I'll throw in another handful. Like the thing is, you don't have to worry because there's like 8 of those guys out there. You could just as easily substitute Cooper Kupp for Tyler Lockett or Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper or like that. Like there's a number of them. So like, fine. Like
you threw Stephon Diggs out there yesterday too, and I know a bunch of people were coming back with like, could you imagine that room just from a personality standpoint? Listen, from a play perspective, it would be awesome, but like for that reason also is why I would lean like a Cooper Kupp type. Like I can't imagine what that room would look like with all those guys. Yeah, potentially Aaron Rodgers being the one throwing the ball.
Brandon Cooks.
Be a fun team to cover, I guess.
Put him out there.
Yeah. I feel like Brandon Cooks has been talked about being a Steeler.
Right? Isn't Juju still a free agent? I'll be fine with that. Tim Patrick, someone they were interested in last year, had a really good year with Detroit. Josh Reynolds, I think, is still out there.
Same boat as Tim Patrick, yeah. 2 good blockers.
Well. Tyler Boyd, I know they talked to him last year. Like, there's a ton of good players out there. Tyler did not have a good year, but like, I think there's no reason to be like freaking out about wide receiver, but Cooper Kupp to me is the best of that bunch, and I would be very interested in him about the Steelers, no matter who the quarterback is.
And how much better, though, does it sound listing those names off, knowing that you're talking about an option now behind DK Metcalf and George Pickens, like as opposed to just opposite of George Pickens? Like, I think everybody on there just became much more attractive because you're talking about a third option, not a second. And again, it's insurance too, because we don't know what's going to happen with George this summer and everything like that. But at least for the time being, in the best case scenario for the Steelers offense, you're talking about that guy being the third option.
Let me throw this out there. I don't think it's going to happen. Thoughts on Deontay Johnson coming back?
Oh, man. I saw somebody replied to me because I said about Stephon Diggs, and somebody said, I'll do you one better. That would be even funnier. Deontay Johnson.
It would be funny. It would be funny.
Kind of going back to the whole Rusell Wilson relationship broken beyond repair. I would think Deontay Johnson's kind of
Deontay Johnson's relationship with the entirety of the NFL might be broken beyond repair. There can't be anybody left that wants to deal with him.
It's very possible. To answer your question,
if he was willing to play for the minimum, would that change your mind at all?
I mean, minimum
contract,
sure,
no guarantee.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that might be what it takes for him to get a shot
with anybody.
Like one where he has a realistic chance of playing, like making the team and playing. Yeah.
I haven't heard his name at all so far. This spring. So you mentioned those defensive tackles sitting around in the summer. waiting, maybe for different reasons. I think Deontay Johnson might be sitting right along there.
Well, some of those slot corners may need a sparring partner, so maybe DJ can do that.
Man, it's crazy to think about, though. Like, when the Steelers traded him 12 months ago, would you have thought that this is where we'd be sitting talking about him?
No. And it's funny because that was still a bad trade because the Steelers undersold his value at that time. And since then, his value looks like the stock market circa 1929.
Actually, you know what? Maybe that was him doing the Steelers. He should come back. That was him doing the Steelers a favor. He was making it look like a better trade than it was. He tanked his own value to do so.
Yeah, and there you go.
But yeah, no, I mean, I wonder how things would have played out if he would have just been content just being on a bad team but putting up numbers in Carolina, because it wasn't like he was having like that bad of a year in Carolina before they traded him. So
no, he was fine. If he had just kept his head together for like 2 more weeks, he would have netted Carolina like a really good return.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I see your boy went, Alan, in the process of recording this here. Chargers signing Ben St. Juste.
Yeah, I know.
Another one bites
Kai
the dust.
Becton's still out there.
Yeah, there you go. Anything else feel like worth discussing?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, you know the drill. Before we got here, tell people they can find you.
A_Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now is the site's account. SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the words so I can get paid. And I can't do it, Smitty. I just subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube platform. But I can't.
No, did we not move at all since you said that?
No.
We have.
Oh,
okay. See.
I think an update.
Yeah, but we're back to the same number as yesterday.
Oh. Huh? we went up a whole 100. Exactly 100?
Yep. So
disappointing.
I don't know what I got nothing here for number 19.
I used David Woodley yesterday. I'll go with that again. It's a barren wasteland of a number in Steelers history. Not too many guys at all. So
there are a total of 12, and I've heard of 2 of them.
I mean, I'm sure there's been like practice squad guys, but or guys in training camp.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't.
So Juju wore it, obviously, 2017 to 2021. He was the only one, and like Calvin Austin now going into his 3rd year of wearing it. No one else wore it for more than 2 years. George Summers is the only one that wore it for multiple years that wasn't those 2. Well, David Woodley, 2 years, who you mentioned already. So yeah, what a terrible number for the Steelers.
David Woodley only wore it for 2 years. Wow, I would have.
Is 84 to 85.
I would have thought he was there longer than that, but
unless Pro Football Reference is doing me wrong for the first time ever.
Maybe he had a different number. Maybe he changed his number. Possible.
Yeah, but he probably realized this number stinks. Look at the history.
It's a bad number. 11 is a bad number for the Steelers. Also, do we talk about that in this process?
I don't think so, but yeah, it's bad. Like that's why everybody's like, is this going to finally be the receiver that gets the stench off of it? And they never are.
No, they never are.
Anyways, be sure to hit us in the comments, thoughts on anything that we talked about, question for a future episode, topic for a future episode, all that good stuff as we work through the off season here. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast's from, be sure to leave a 5-star review, subscribe over there, just search Steelers Afternoon Drive, do the same thing on TikTok, and then find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders and myself. Thanks for jumping in, take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.